The stars themselves held their breath the day humanity arrived at the Galactic Council, not as petitioners, not as equals, but as harbingers. Their ships limped into the docking bay, holes scarred and dripping with blood that wasn't theirs. The air reeked of ionized metal and something darker, something alive. The council chambers fell silent as Captain Alicia Vance stepped forward, her boots leaving crimson prints on the pristine alien floor. She didn't beg for help. She didn't demand justice. She smiled, a razor's edge of a thing, and said, "You're next." And then the lights went out. "Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCard button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button. Right now, hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land." Alright, let's dive into the story. The morning sun crept through the dusty windows of the Black Heart Tavern, casting long shadows across the worn wooden floor. A low hum of conversation filled the air, punctuated by the occasional clink of tankards and the crackle of the hearth. In the corner, a grizzled old man with a patch over one eye leaned forward, his voice a rough whisper. "You ever heard of the Shadowfen Vault?" he asked, his good eye glinting with mischief. The younger man across from him, a wiry thief named Jace, snorted into his ale. "Course I have. Every fool in this city's heard of it. The lost treasure of the Crimson Duke, the cursed gold, blah blah." He wiped his mouth with his sleeve. "You telling me you actually believe that nonsense?" The old man chuckled, tapping the side of his nose. "Believe? No, love. I know it's real. Saw the entrance with my own two eyes, well, one eye anyway." Jace rolled his own eyes, but couldn't help leaning in. "All right, old-timer. Humor me. Where's this entrance, then?" Before the man could answer, the tavern door slammed open, and a hush fell over the room. A woman strode in, her dark cloak swirling around her boots, her sharp gaze scanning the crowd like a hawk. Jace tensed. He knew that look. Trouble. She spotted him and smirked. "Jace. Still alive, I see." He forced a grin. "Elora. Still terrifying, I see." She slid into the booth beside him, ignoring the old man's startled grunt. "We need to talk. Now." Jace sighed. "Can it wait? I'm in the middle of a very important conversation about fairy tales and drunk old men." Elora's hand shot out, gripping his wrist hard enough to make him wince. "Unless you want the city guard breaking down that door in the next 5 minutes, no. It can't wait." The old man's good eye widened. "You in trouble, boy?" Jace yanked his arm free, rubbing his wrist. "When am I not?" He tossed a coin onto the table. "Thanks for the story, Gramps. Maybe next time." Elora was already moving toward the back door, and Jace hurried after her, his heart pounding. The alley outside stank of garbage and damp stone, but the cool air was a relief after the tavern's stuffy heat. "What did you do this time?" Elora hissed, shoving him against the wall. "Me? Why do you assume it's my fault?" She gave him a look. "Okay, fine," he admitted. "Might have borrowed a certain noble's signet ring. But in my defense, it was just lying there." Elora groaned. "You idiot. That certain noble is the High Magistrate's brother. They've got half the guards scouring the docks for you." Jace winced. That complicates things." She grabbed his collar, dragging him deeper into the shadows. "You're leaving the city. Tonight." "What?" "No. I got a job lined up. A real job," she interrupted. "One that pays enough to get you out of this mess. But we have to move now." Jace hesitated, then glanced back at the tavern. The old man's words echoed in his mind. "The Shadowfen Vault." He smirked. "All right, Fine. But I'm choosing the destination." Elora narrowed her eyes. "Why do I hate the sound of that?" He winked. "Because you're smart." With that, he ducked past her, vanishing into the maze of alleys, the promise of treasure and trouble, hot on his heels. Chapter 2. The Odyssey drifted silently through the void, its engines humming at minimal power as the crew went about their routines. Captain Alicia Vance leaned back in her command chair, rubbing her temples. 6 months in deep space with nothing but empty star systems and routine scans had worn on everyone's nerves. Derek Holt, her second in command, tossed a stress ball across the bridge, catching it lazily. You'd think with an entire galaxy to explore, we'd find something more exciting than cosmic dust and dead rocks. Alicia smirked. Careful what you wish for, Holt. Last time we got excited, you nearly got spaced by that malfunctioning airlock. Hey, that wasn't my fault. The engineers swore they fixed it. Dr. Sofia Reyes hunched over her console, didn't look up. And yet, you still screamed like a rookie. Derek clutched his chest in mock offense. I did not scream. That was a tactical alert. Alicia rolled her eyes just as the ship's AI, Cal, chimed in with its usual calm tone. Captain, detecting an anomalous signal. Origin, uncharted space. That got everyone's attention. Sophia's fingers flew over the console, pulling up the data. It's faint, but it's repeating. Some kind of stress call. Alicia straightened. Language, unknown. It's not matching any known dialects or code patterns. Derek whistled. First contact scenario. Please tell me it's not another bunch of rock people. Sophia shot him a glare. The Lithians were not rock people. They were silicon-based life forms with a highly advanced, and they also tried to turn our water supply into cement. Alicia ignored them, her focus locked on the signal. Cal, plot an intercept course. Let's see what we're dealing with. The Odyssey's engines flared to life, the ship banking toward the unknown. As they approached, the signal grew stronger, a pulsing, almost breathing sound like a heartbeat echoing through the void. Then the visuals came in. Derek's smirk vanished. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. A massive derelict ship hung in the darkness, its hull twisted and ruptured as if something had chewed through it. Jagged tears ran along its sides, and entire sections floated in pieces. Sophia's breath hitched. That's not battle damage. That's something else. Alicia's grip tightened on the armrests. Derek, prep a boarding team. Full hazard gear. You sure about this, Cap? The thing looks like it got into a fight with a black hole and lost. Which is exactly why we need to check it out. If there are survivors, Cal interrupted. Captain, life sign scans negative. No biological traces detected. A beat of silence. Sophia frowned. That's impossible. A ship this size would have some residue, even if the crew's gone. Alicia stood. Then we go in and find out why. The boarding shuttle docked with the derelict, its airlock groaning in protest. The moment the doors opened, the stench hit them, metallic, sour wrong. Derek gagged. Oh hell, that's not just decay. That's fresh. Sophia's scanner flickered as she stepped forward. No bloodius. No blood. Just. She trailed off, her light catching something on the floor. Alicia knelt, her stomach turning. Deep, jagged grooves, claw marks, carved into the metal, and between them, patches of strange, tar-like substance. Sophia's voice dropped to a whisper. Something was hunting in here. Then, the lights flickered. A distant, guttural screech echoed through the halls. Derek's rifle snapped up. Okay, new plan. We leave. Now. Alicia didn't argue. Fall back to the shuttle. They ran, the derelict groaning around them. Just as they reached the airlock, Sophia's scanner blared. Movement! Behind us! Alicia spun, just in time to see shadows peeling off the walls. Not shadows. Things. Derek didn't hesitate. He fired. The plasma rounds tore through the air and passed right through the creatures. Sophia's eyes widened. They're phased. They exist between dimensions. The creatures lunged. The last thing Alicia heard before the shuttle doors slammed shut was a voice. Not spoken, but pressed in her mind like a knife. We see you. The Odyssey barely escaped, engines screaming as they fled. Back on the bridge, Alicia's hand shook. Derek wiped sweat from his brow. Okay, so, we just met our first alien nightmare. Anyone else rethinking this whole exploration thing? Sophia's voice was deadly quiet. They weren't just killing that crew, Alicia. They were feeding. Alicia stared at the view screen where the derelict ship and the things inside it vanished into the dark. Then we make sure they never get the chance to do it again. Chapter 3. The rain came down in sheets, turning the narrow forest path into a river of mud. Jace pulled his cloak tighter, cursing as cold water dripped down his neck. Beside him, Elora moved like a ghost, barely making a sound despite the treacherous ground. Remind me again why we're out here instead of somewhere warm and dry. Jace grumbled, slipping on a moss-covered rock. Elora didn't even glance back. Because you borrowed a high magistrate's ring, and now half the city wants your head on a spike. Yeah, but did it have to be this route? He gestured at the storm-darkened trees. I've seen friendlier swamps. She finally stopped, turning to glare at him. You wanted the Shadowfen Vault. This is the way, unless you'd rather take your chances back in the city. Jace opened his mouth, then froze. A low growl rumbled through the trees, too deep to be the wind. Elora's hand went to her dagger. Tell me that was your stomach, she muttered. Jace swallowed. Wish I could. The underbrush exploded as a massive, fur-covered beast lunged at them. A forest warg, its yellowed fangs bared. Jace barely dodged, rolling into the mud as the creature snarled. Elora, a little help. She was already moving, blade flashing. The warg yelped as steel bit into its flank, but it twisted with terrifying speed, knocking her off her feet. Jace scrambled up, drawing his knife. Hey, ugly, he shouted, waving his arms. Over here. The warg turned, saliva dripping from its jaws. Jace swallowed hard. Oh, great plan. Elora lunged from behind, driving her dagger into the beast's hind leg. It howled, whipping around, just as Jace leapt onto its back, stabbing downward. The warg thrashed, then collapsed, its breath coming in ragged gasps before going still. Jace rolled off, panting. Remind me to never, ever do that again. Elora wiped her blade on the grass, her smirk barely visible in the dim light. You're welcome, he groaned. You're insufferable. A sudden rustle made them both tense, but it was only a scrawny figure stepping from the trees, hands raised. A boy, no older than 14, his eyes wide with awe. You killed it, he breathed. Jace narrowed his eyes. And who the hell are you? The boy swallowed. Kellen, I've been tracking you since River Fork. Elora's grip tightened on her dagger. What? Kellen hesitated, then blurted out. Because I know where the vault is. And I want in. Jace sparked a laugh. Oh, perfect. Now we've got a stowaway. Elora studied the boy, then sighed. We can't leave him here. The wards will pick him apart by nightfall. Jace threw up his hands. So now we're babysitting? This just keeps getting better. Kellen's face lit up. I won't slow you down. I swear. Jace groaned, rubbing his temples. Fine. But if you get eaten, I'm not carrying your bones back. Elora shook her head, turning back to the path. Come on. We're losing daylight. As they trudged onward, Kellen fell in a step beside Jace, bouncing with excitement. So, is it true the vault's guarded by spirits? My uncle said. Jace cut him off with a glare. Kid, if you don't shut up, I'm feeding you to the next warg. Kellen snapped his mouth closed, but his grin didn't fade. Somewhere ahead, hidden in the storm and shadows, the vault waited. And with it, answers or a death neither of them saw coming. Chapter 4. The war room of the United Earth Defense Headquarters was buzzing with frantic energy. Screens flickered with casualty reports, maps of vanished colonies, and grainy footage of ships being torn apart by unseen forces. Admiral Cole, his face lined with exhaustion, slammed his fist on the table. 12 colonies gone in 3 weeks. Not attacked, erased. No debris, no distress signals, just poof. Alicia stood with her arms crossed, her flight suit still stained with grime from their last encounter. It's the Reapers. They're hunting system by system, and we can't stop them. Derek leaned against the wall, his usual smirk replaced by a grim frown. Because shooting at them does jack all. Bullets pass right through. Missiles might as well be fireworks. Sophia tossed a data pad onto the table, pulling up a hologram of the derelict ship they'd found. They're not fully in our dimension. They phase in and out, which is why conventional weapons don't work. Cole scowled. So what does work? Praying. Alicia met his glare. We need to trap one. Study it. Find a weakness. The room fell silent. Then a young lieutenant, Jenkins, cleared his throat. Sir, with all due respect, that's suicide. Every ship that's gotten close to these things ends up as scrap. Derek pushed off the wall. Then we don't get close. We lure it. Sophia's eyes narrowed. You're talking about bait. Damn right I am. Set up a fake distress signal. Make it look like a juicy target. And when it takes the hook, bang. Cole rubbed his temples. And who volunteers for this suicide run? Alicia didn't hesitate. We do. The Odyssey crew. Jenkins gaped. You've seen what these things do. You won't just die. You'll be eaten alive. Sophia's voice was icy. Then we make sure they choke on us. 3 days later, the trap was set. The Odyssey floated near a dead star, its systems rigged to mimic a crippled vessel. Alicia sat in the captain's chair, her fingers drumming restlessly. Derek checked the weapons console for the 10th time. Remind me again why I agreed to be bait? Sophia, monitoring the scanners, didn't look up. Because you have a hero complex and terrible survival instincts. Fair. Alicia's comm crackled. Captain, all ships in position. Ready on your mark. She took a slow breath. Do it. The Odyssey's distress beacon flared to life, pulsing into the void. For a long moment, nothing. Then the sensor screamed. Sophia's hands flew over the controls. Contact. Beeiling 270, closing fast. The view screen flickered, and then it appeared. A Reaper, its form shifting between solid and shadow, tendrils lashing hungrily. Derek's knuckles whitened on the console. Oh, you are ugly. Alicia gripped the armrests. Hold steady. Wait for it. The Reaper lunged, its maw gaping. Now. Space erupted. 6 stealth ships decloaked, their gravity nets flaring to life. The Reaper shrieked as the energy fields snapped around it, trapping it mid-phase. Sophia's voice was tight with triumph. Got you, you bastard. The Reaper thrashed, its form flickering violently. Then, for the first time, it spoke. Not words, something deeper, crawling into their minds like worms. Fools. You cage only death. Alicia's blood ran cold. Sophia, tell me you're getting data. Sophia's screens lit up. Its phase signature. There's a pattern. If we disrupt the frequency at the exact moment it materializes, the Reaper laughed. Then, the Odyssey's hull groaned. Derek's head snapped up. Guys? It's not alone. Outside, the stars warped. More Reapers. Dozens. Hundreds. Sophia's breath caught. They're not just hunting us. They're hurting us. Alicia slammed the comms. All ships fall back. Now, but it was too late. The first ship exploded in a silent burst of flame. Then another. The Reapers were learning. And they were hungry. Chapter 5. The air inside the Shadowfen vault was thick with the scent of damp stone and ancient dust. Jace held his torch higher, its flickering light revealing walls carved with strange, twisting symbols that seemed to shift when stared at too long. Tell me again why we thought this was a good idea, he muttered, stepping over a pile of broken bones. Elora ran her fingers along the carvings, her brow furrowed. Because you're an idiot who can't resist shiny things, and I'm an idiot who keeps saving your neck. Kellen, trailing behind them, let out a nervous laugh. I think these markings are a warning. My uncle's books mentioned. A loud click cut him off. Jace froze mid-step. Didn't anyone else hear that? The ground gave way beneath him. Elora lunged, grabbing his arm just as the floor tiles flipped open, revealing a yawning pit lined with rusted spikes. Jace dangled over the drop, his free hand scrabbling for purchase. Don't you dare let go, he gasped. She gritted her teeth, hauling him up with a grunt. Next time, she panted, watch your damn feet. Kellen peered into the pit, his face pale. That could have been me. Jace dusted himself off, shooting the boy a glare. Yeah, and it still might be if you don't stay exactly where I step. They pressed on, the corridor narrowing until they had to turn sideways to squeeze through. The air grew colder, their breath misting in the torchlight. Then, without warning, the passage opened into a vast chamber. And there, in the center, sat the prize they'd risked everything for. The Crimson Duke's treasure, glittering in mounds of gold and jewels. Kellen gasped. We actually found it. Jace's grin was instant. Told you it was real. He took a step forward, then yelped as Elora yanked him back. Look, she hissed, pointing. Between them and the treasure, the floor was a mosaic of colored tiles, arranged in an intricate pattern. Above it, the ceiling bristled with dark holes, dart traps, arrow slits, or worse. Jace whistled. Okay, that's new. Kellen crouched, squinting at the tiles. I think it's a puzzle. Step on the wrong one, and he mimed an explosion with his hands. Elora crossed her arms. So, who's feeling lucky? Jace rubbed his chin. All right, genius, he said to Kellen. You're the one who's read all the books. Which tile do we step on? The boy hesitated, then pointed to a blue tile near the edge. That one. Maybe. Kellen shrugged helplessly. Uncle's books weren't that detailed. Elora exhaled sharply. We don't have time for this. Before anyone could stop her, she grabbed a loose stone from the floor and hurled it onto the blue tile. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, with a deafening crunch, the entire section of floor collapsed into a hidden chasm. Jace stared at the gaping hole, then at Elora. Remind me never to piss you off. She smirked. Noted. Kellen, meanwhile, was already studying the tiles again, muttering under his breath. Wait, the pattern repeats here. He pointed to a red tile 2 rows back. That's the safe path. Jace clapped him on the shoulder. Kid, if you're right, I'll buy you your own tavern when we get back. Step by cautious step, they picked their way across the deadly mosaic, hearts pounding with every shift of stone beneath their feet. When they finally reached the other side, Jace didn't hesitate. He grabbed the nearest gold cup and held it aloft. Told you we'd. A deep, shuddering groan echoed through the chamber. The walls trembled. Elora's eyes locked onto the far doorway, where a hulking figure clad in ancient armor now stood, its hollow eye sockets glowing with eerie blue light. Kellen's voice was a squeak. That's the Crimson Duke. Jace slowly lowered the cup. Yeah, I figured. The undead warlord raised a rusted sword, its voice a whisper of dust and malice. Thieves! Elora drew her blades. Run now. Celebrate later. As the Duke charged, Jace stuffed the cup into his pack with one thought. This was definitely not worth it. Chapter 6. The Galactic Council chamber descended into chaos as the Reapers breached the outer defenses. Alarms blared, delegates screamed, and the very walls trembled as energy weapons flashed against the dark tide pouring in. Alicia grabbed the Grand Arbiter's arm, her voice cutting through the bedlam. Evacuate now, or this whole place becomes a graveyard. The ancient being's silver-blue skin paled. The archives, centuries of knowledge, Derek shoved past a panicked Volari delegate, his rifle already spitting plasma. Yeah, and it'll look real nice carved on your tombstone. Move! Sophia sprinted to a console, her fingers flying across the alien interface. I can access the Council's defense grid. Maybe buy us some time. Alicia barked into her comm. All human ships form a perimeter around the evacuation shuttles. Nothing gets through. Outside the massive viewports, the battle raged. Human vessels, their hulls still streaked with blood from previous fights, unleashed everything they had. The Reapers swarmed like locusts, their shadowy forms flickering between dimensions as they tore through ship after ship. Derek ducked as a chunk of the ceiling collapsed. Remind me again why we thought coming here was a good idea? Sophia didn't look up from her screen. Because we're the galaxy's dumbest altruists. An explosion rocked the chamber. The far doors vaporized, and they poured in. The Reapers moved like liquid nightmares, their forms shifting between solid and shadow. One lunged at a fleeing Tarkelian delegate, its maw gaping wide. Alicia's pistol barked 3 times. The specialized rounds, designed from Sophia's research, actually connected. The Reaper screeched, black ichor spraying from the wounds. Derek hooped. Hell yeah, they can bleed. Sophia's console beeped urgently. I found something. Their hive mind stores stolen memories like data. If we overload the network, another explosion. The lights flickered. Alicia grabbed Sophia's shoulder. Can you do it from here? Sophia met her eyes. Not from here. From inside their fleet. Derek's grin vanished. Oh, come on. The Grand Arbiter stepped forward. There's an old warship in the docking bay, fast enough to penetrate their lines. Alicia didn't hesitate. Then we're taking it. As they sprinted through the crumbling corridors, Derek kept glancing back. You realize this is the part in horror vids where everyone dies, right? Sophia adjusted her wrist display. Shut up and run faster. The warship was a sleek, predatory thing, clearly built for speed over firepower. They barely made it aboard before the docking bay's force field failed, the vacuum of space howling around them. Alicia strapped into the pilot's seat. Sophia, plot me a course straight through their formation. Derek, already on guns, he said, cracking his knuckles. Let's see how they like their turn to be hunted. The ship roared to life, streaking toward the heart of the Reaper fleet. Outside, the carnage was unimaginable. Hundreds of ships burning, entire species fighting for survival. Sophia's voice was calm despite the madness. 30 seconds to optimal range. Their neural network converges at the center. Alicia's hands tightened on the controls. Derek, his targeting screen lit up. Locked and loaded, Cap. The Reapers sensed them coming. A swarm detached from the battle, converging on their ship like sharks to blood. Sophia counted down. 10 seconds. Their pattern is cycling now. Alicia yanked the ship into a brutal spin. Derek, fire. The payload launched, a modified data bomb carrying Sophia's virus. It streaked into the Reaper formation and detonated in silence. For one terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the Reaper screamed. The sound wasn't auditory. It was inside their heads, a psychic wail of agony as the virus tore through their stolen memories. One by one, the creatures convulsed, their forms destabilizing. Derek hooped as the nearest Reaper dissolved into black mist. That's right. How's dinner taste now? You ugly. The ship lurched violently. Alicia's warning came too late. Brace for a dying Reaper collided with them, its talons raking across the hull. The lights died. The oxygen alarms wailed. Sophia pulled up a flickering damage report. We're venting atmosphere. Engine's gone. Alicia unbuckled her harness. Then we go out with a bang. Arm the self-destruct. Derek's hands flew over the console. You know, for a suicide mission, this turned out pretty damn well. Sophia actually smiled. Could have been worse. The countdown began. Outside, the Reaper fleet was crumbling, their stolen knowledge turning against them. The Galactic Council ships rallied, pressing the advantage. Alicia watched the flames through the cracked viewport. At least we got the last word. The explosion lit up the void like a newborn star. Chapter 7. The Crimson Duke's blade screeched against stone as it carved through the air, where Jace's head had been just a heartbeat before. He rolled to his feet, heart hammering, the stolen gold cup suddenly feeling absurdly heavy in his pack. Any brilliant plans? He shouted at Elora, ducking behind a crumbling pillar as the Duke's sword shattered it to rubble. She flipped a dagger in her hand, eyes calculating. Distract him. I'll find a weak spot. Oh, perfect. I'll just politely ask the murderous skeleton to hold still. Kellen suddenly darted past them, hurling a fistful of dust into the Duke's hollow eye sockets. The ancient warlord staggered, clawing at its face with a bone-rattling shriek. Now, the boy yelled. Elora didn't hesitate. She lunged, driving her blade into the gap between the Duke's breastplate and helm. A burst of blue fire erupted from the wound, and the Duke collapsed with a final, echoing wail, its armor clattering to the ground in a lifeless heap. Silence. Jace let out a shaky breath. "Kid, that was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen." Kellen grinned, still trembling. "Told you I wouldn't slow you down." Elora wiped her blade clean, eyeing the treasure with newfound wariness. "We take what we can carry and go. Now, this place feels wrong." As if summoned by her words, the chamber began to tremble. Cracks spiderwebbed across the ceiling, raining dust and debris. Jace grabbed a handful of jewels, stuffing them into his pockets. "Oh, come on. Can't we catch a single break?" The far wall exploded inward, revealing a yawning tunnel and the distant glint of daylight. "There!" Kellen pointed. They ran, dodging falling stones as the vault collapsed behind them. Jace's lungs burned, but he didn't dare slow down. Not until they burst into the open air, gasping as the cool wind hit their faces. Behind them, the entrance sealed itself with a final, thunderous crash. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Jace doubled over, laughing hysterically. "We're alive. And rich." Elora smirked, tossing him a single gold coin. "Don't spend it all in one place." Kellen sat heavily on a rock, staring at his shaking hands. "I can't believe we actually did it." Jace ruffled the boy's hair. "Yeah, well, turns out you're not completely useless." Elora shouldered her pack, gazing at the horizon where the first hints of dawn painted the sky. "City's that way. Assuming you two geniuses remember how to get back." Jace stretched, wincing at his bruises. "First, we find a tavern, then a bath. Then you pay off the magistrate's brother," Elora interrupted, "before he sends more bounty hunters after us." Jace groaned. "Fine." But after the ale, as they trudged toward the rising sun, Kellen fell into step beside them, his voice tentative. "So what happens now?" Jace slung an arm around his shoulders. "Now, kid, we make you official." Elora rolled her eyes, but there was a hint of a smile there, too. "Just don't expect us to save your neck every time." Kellen beamed. Somewhere ahead, the city waited, with all its chaos, its dangers, its promises. But for now, with gold in their pockets and the morning light warm on their faces, it was enough. They walked on together. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and, as always, keep the last light burning.